earlier than usual this year. Specifically, Gulmarg, Sonmarg, Shopian and the Gurez Valley have a thick blanket of snow. It's winter wonderland for tourists, but locals, namely farmers, are facing some problems. News 18 brings you ground reports from across the valley. I'm leaving you with these visuals. Thanks a lot for watching.
कोई वेस्ट बंगाल से है, कोई पंजाब से, कोई यूपी से, अलग अलग एरिया से जो है यहाँ पे लोग आए हैं जो यहाँ पे बर्फ़ का मज़ा ले रहे हैं। छोटे बच्चे, जवान, बुज़ुर्ग, महिलाएं यहाँ पे इस बर्फ़बारी, क्योंकि ये पहली बर्फ़बारी है, हैवी बर्फ़बारी गुलमर्ग के मीडोज़ में। हालांकि इससे पहले 2 बार बर्फ़ हुई, लेकिन वो अपर रीचेस में हुई। लेकिन ये जो पहली बर्फ़बारी यहाँ पे आज मैदानी इलाके में यानी मीडोज़ में हुई, तो इसका खूब मज़ा ले रहे हैं। टूरिस्ट आ रहे हैं और यहाँ पे एंजॉय कर रहे हैं। तो ये सिलसिला जो है अब विंटर में जारी रहेगा। जैसा मैंने कहा, बच्चे हों, बुज़ुर्ग हों, सब, जैसा मैंने कहा कि कोई वेस्ट बंगाल से आया है, कोई महाराष्ट्र से आया है, कोई एमपी से आया है, कोई जम्मू कश्मीर से आया है, तो अलग अलग एरिया से लोग आए हैं। हालांकि धुंध है, क्लैरिटी बहुत कम है, लेकिन हो सकता है कि अब विजिबिलिटी और इम्प्रूव हो और यहाँ के फिर नज़ारे जो हैं ज़्यादा दिखेंगे। जो माउंटेन्स हैं वहाँ पे किस तरीके की अट्रैक्शन है।
महकमे मौसमियात की ठीक पेशनगोई के मुताबिक आज रात से ही शुपियान के पहाड़ी एरियाज़ में जमकर बर्फ़बारी हुई। अगर हम मैदानी इलाकों की बात करेंगे तो मैदानी इलाकों में भी बर्फ़बारी अभी भी जारी है और आप देख सकते हैं कि यहाँ पे जो है हार्वेस्टिंग का जो सीज़न है वो पीक पे है। तो हम दिखाना चाहेंगे अभी भी जो है पेड़ों पे जो है काफ़ी सेब मौजूद है, जिसकी वजह से यहाँ के किसान परेशान है। क्योंकि हमने कई लोगों से बात करने की कोशिश की, अभी भी बर्फ़ जारी है कि बेशतर जो लोग हैं वो अपने घरों में ही है, क्योंकि अभी भी बहुत ज़्यादा यहाँ पे सर्दी है। मैं आपको फिर एक बार दिखाना चाहता हूँ, काफ़ी जो है पेड़ों पे अभी सेब मौजूद है और आपको दिखाना चाहेंगे कि अगर ज़्यादा बर्फ़ पड़ी तो यकीनन इनका जो पेड़ों का जो है वज़न ऑलरेडी ज़्यादा है, क्योंकि सेब जो है पेड़ों पे मौजूद है। अगर और बर्फ़ पड़ने से ये वज़न ज़्यादा बढ़ जाएगा तो यकीनन ये सारे जो हैं पेड़ टूट जाएंगे। तो कई लोग ऐसे ये चाहते हैं कि सरकार को चाहिए कि जो गरीब एरियाज़ है, अगर हम शुपियान ज़िला की पहाड़ी एरियाज़ की बात करेंगे तो उनको कम से कम यहाँ पे तखमीना लगाया जाए और जो है टीम जो एग्रीकल्चर डिपार्टमेंट या हार्टिकल्चर डिपार्टमेंट जो उनकी टीमें इन इलाकों में भेजी जाए, वो यहाँ के नुकसान का जायज़ा लेने के बाद जो है किसानों को मुआवजा फराहम करे।
Good evening. This is Viewpoint. I'm Zaka Jacob. It's that time of the year again. Pollution is rearing its ugly head once again in Delhi and the national capital region. And it's not just firecrackers that are going up ahead of Diwali. Most importantly, it's the stubble burning by farmers in Punjab and Haryana. For years now, the Aam Aadmi Party has been promising that once they come to power in Punjab, they will put an end to stubble burning. Now they are in power in Punjab, but the stubble burning continues. So the question that needs to be asked is there no political will across parties to put an end to this problem? Are Delhiites and folks living in the national capital region consigned to this fate every year at this time of the year? But first, the story so far.
That choking feeling has returned to the capital. Every year, like clockwork, the air quality in Delhi gets worse. Ahead of Diwali, the AAP government has drawn the line on buying or bursting firecrackers in Delhi.
दिल्ली के अंदर जो लोग आदेश का उल्लंघन करते हुए उत्पादन, भंडारण और बिक्री में संलग्न पाए जाएंगे, उनके खिलाफ सेक्शन 9B एक्सप्लोसिव एक्ट के तहत कार्रवाई होगी, जिसके तहत 5,000 रुपए तक का जुर्माना और 3 साल तक की सजा होती है।
While Delhiites are facing hefty fines and even jail time over crackers, the rules don't appear to be applying to AAP workers. BJP released a video of a group of men bursting crackers. The party claims they are supporters of AAP MLA Rajkumar Anand, who was celebrating his appointment as the new social welfare minister by bursting crackers at his residence. Following the cracker ban, BJP has accused AAP of being anti-Hindu and demonizing Diwali.
गोपाल राय जो एनवायरमेंट मिनिस्टर हैं, उन्होंने घोषणा करी कि कोई भी पटाखा फोड़ते हुए पाया गया तो उनके ऊपर 6 महीने की जेल या फाइन होगा। मैं पूछना चाहता हूं दिल्ली सरकार से, क्या हिंदुओं के त्योहार दिवाली पर ही सब कुछ ऐसा होगा?
AAP is also on the back foot over unabated stubble burning in Punjab, which is a major contributor to Delhi's toxic air. For the last 9 years, AAP has been blaming governments in Punjab for failing to stop farmers from burning stubble. But now AAP is in power in Punjab, yet the problem is persisting. But instead of cracking down on rising incidents of stubble burning, the Punjab government is facing the wrath of farmers. Thousands of them have been camping near Chief Minister Bhagwant Man's home in Sangrur for the last 10 days. They are refusing to budge till the government agrees to a whole host of their demands, including cancelling cases registered against them for burning stubble. While Delhi struggles to breathe, Netas continue to pass the buck. So is political inertia worsening Delhi's air?
All right, on the talking point this evening, Charu Pragya is BJP spokesperson. We're also joined by Jyoti Pandey Lavkare, who's an author and co-founder of Care for Air. We'll also be joined by Dr. Piyush Joshi, political analyst, and Jayadhar Gupta, founding member of My Right to Breathe. Charu Pragya, let me start with you first. Since 2017, firecrackers, by an order of the Supreme Court no less, has been banned in Delhi. But that has not deterred either buyers or sellers. Today, you look at the newspapers, the Delhi Pollution Control Board has taken out full-page ads talking about how it's illegal to burst crackers. Fact is, every year during this season, the Aam Aadmi Party says firecrackers are to blame, and the BJP says, well, why are you blaming firecrackers? Why are you targeting Hindu festivals? Because at the end of the day, everyone is breathing bad air and everyone is suffering from this bad air.
Saga, good evening. And yes, it is unfortunate that the people of Delhi are again suffering with the terrible air quality. The older people are suffering, children are suffering, health ailments are going up. And we have a government in Delhi which remembers air pollution only during Diwali. What has happened during the rest of the year? Absolutely nothing. What have they done to control vehicular pollution during the entire year? Nothing. Controlling industrial pollution? Nothing. Dust, nothing. Burning of biomass, nothing. Maybe exhaust from diesel generators, nothing. So the fact is that they start talking about air pollution only at the time of Diwali, where studies have shown us multiple times in the past that out of all the pollution in Delhi, the crackers contribute to less than 6%. So why is it that Aam Aadmi Party government is not targeting 94% of the reasons for the bad air quality in Delhi and only going after the 6% of the crackers which burn for one evening? One evening. How fair is that? And what kind of a stand are they taking? Are they secular or they pseudo-secular? Because they are stopping the Hindus from celebrating one of our most primary major festival while doing nothing about stubble burning in Punjab.
I'll come to the stubble burning part. I want to ask Dr. Piyush Joshi this. Charu says only 6% is contributed because of firecrackers. But there is a recent IIT study that has found that Diwali crackers on the day before Diwali, on the day off and the day after, it raises pollution levels as much as 1,100%, particularly PM 2.5. PM 2.5, of course, accounts for metal in the air. My question is, between the BJP saying you're attacking Hindu festivals and the AAP government, Dr. Piyush Joshi, saying that stubble burning was the reason all along, but now you're not doing anything about stubble burning despite the fact that you're being in power in Punjab. So ultimately, net, between these two big contributors, the people of Delhi NCR are stuck and breathing bad air.
If someone is saying that we are not doing anything about stubble burning, I think they are living in a fool's paradise. There has been a reduction in the number of stubble burning incidences as compared to the last year during the same period of time. That means from 15th of September 2022 to 19th of October 2022, the incidences are only 33% of what they were last year. So if you are saying that, not you, but whosoever is saying that the Punjab government is not doing anything about stubble burning, I think they are not correct on this parameter.
No, Dr. Joshi, just one correction. Dr. Joshi, one correction. The reason for the decrease in that time period that you quoted from middle of September to middle of October is because of the unseasonal rains that happened in northern India through the last 2 weeks of September and the first week of October. It's because of that the farmers have delayed the stubble burning. They've delayed the sowing for the next season. That's why there has not been fires just yet. But it's going to begin around Diwali. It's begun already.
What I'm trying to tell you that if you're saying that reduction is because of the delayed return of the monsoon, I'm not sure on which data are you basing, on which survey are you basing this, and what is the sample size of that particular survey, how much farmers they have asked, and I really doubt the statistical validity of that survey. The data that I am quoting is from the IARI, that is the Indian Agricultural Research
Sir,
Institute. It is
all
not
I'm
data of
asking
Punjab
is,
government.
can you give that same assurance in the time period from October 15 to November 15th? You cannot. And the reason for that, and I keep going back to it, is because of the unseasonal rains during the last month. The stubble burning has begun over the last week or so, and it will only intensify. In fact, you would be pleased to know that right now in Sangrur, in the home district of the Punjab Chief Minister, there are close to 10,000 farmers who are demanding whatever their demands are. And in Sangrur, his home district, the maximum number of fires have been reported, stubble burning cases have been reported in the last 1 week. Can you deny that?
No, I'm not going to deny that. I'm certainly not going to deny that. But as compared to what? As compared to the other districts of Punjab. Now, what is the way to determine that whether there is going to be an actual decrease in the number of stubble burning or not? We will see in due course of time, in another 6 weeks or so. The Punjab government is there approximately for a period of 6 months.
I'm sorry, Dr. Joshi. I'm getting a piece of breaking news. I need to go to this. This is a huge story. Liz Truss has resigned as Prime Minister of the UK. Remember, she was in office barely a month or so. She has now, after meeting the Conservative Party leader, the head of the 1992 committee, she has now said that she is stepping down as Prime Minister of the UK. Remember, it was a contest between her and Rishi Sunak. They had a series of debates. Of course, Liz Truss winning the Conservative Party leadership race by a wide margin. She got almost close to 70% of the vote there within the Conservative Party. But what a fall this has been for Liz Truss, barely Prime Minister for a month or so, a month and a half. After just 45 days in office, she has now resigned as British Prime Minister. Let me go across first to Abhishek, my colleague who's joining us. Abhishek, what a fall from grace and what a short tenure as Prime Minister, barely a month and a half.
Clearly, she could be one of the shortest serving UK Prime Minister in the history. She was, when she had become Prime Minister, it was very much lauded that Conservative Party has elected women leaders. That would become a historic milestone. But within 45 days, she has to resign, she has resigned before this whole political turmoil. She had to sack 2 of her cabinet minister, also 1 chancellor. She had also reversed all the policies, initial policies, financial. She has proposed to revive the UK's ailing economy and to curb the inflation. And in a way, all the policies that Liz Truss tried to promise to the people, those did not bear any fruit. And finally, the political turmoil has finally took it.
So where does this leave the leadership of the Conservative Party? Will there be yet another Conservative convention? Will there be a face-off between 2 candidates? Will they go into debates? Or will it now be restricted to the members of parliament? And who has majority support amongst the members of parliament?
So the statement that Liz Truss has given just outside 10 Downing Street, she has said that she will remain the caretaker Prime Minister or the Prime Minister as long as there is no other leader who has been elected. But we'll have to see, will the Conservative Party leaders will go for another round of delegates, vote, it will elect a new Conservative Party leader, or the parliamentary committee with whom Graham Barty, with whom Liz Truss was meeting, he will decide whether the Conservative Party has a leader who enjoys the support of majority in the parliament.
Just to take this forward, in terms of the process, does this now mean that Rishi Sunak, who was the challenger and the person who Liz Truss was running off against in the Conservative Party leadership race, does he now automatically become the favourite to be the next Prime Minister?
He has clearly become favourite among party members because we have seen how Liz Truss' policy did not work. In fact, it was disastrous, and very soon she had to get back to the policy that Rishi Sunak had proposed. In fact, Jeremy Hunt, who was backing Rishi Sunak all through the hurdles, was put on the post of chancellor. So probably she had understood the fact that Rishi Sunak's policy were right, and they were only the panacea for the ailing UK economy. So currently, UK policy, if you talk about the policy, Rishi Sunak clearly comes far ahead from any other Conservative Party leader in terms of policy that and the vision that he may have for the UK's future. But we'll have to see whether he will also enjoy the confidence and the popular votes of the delegates to be elected as the Prime Minister of UK.
Okay, Abhishek, stay on with us. So if you're just joining us here on CNN News 18, Liz Truss, the Prime Minister of Britain, has just resigned after just a month and a half in office. She had met earlier this afternoon, she had met with the leader of the 1992 committee, or the committee that decides which of the leaders of the Conservative Party have majority, or does the Conservative Party leader have majority. She resigned right after meeting with that gentleman. Now, of course, she will continue as caretaker Prime Minister until the Conservative Party can agree on a new leader. Rishi Sunak, of course, becomes frontrunner, not least because of the fact that he was the one who had faced off against Liz Truss in the Conservative Party runoff, as it were, after Boris Johnson stepped down. He becomes a favourite, no doubt about it. But more importantly, this entire fracas that we've seen over the last 2 or 3 months, first Boris Johnson, the entire scandals revolving around him literally being kicked out of office, and then the race, the high-profile race to be the next leader of the Conservative Party and the next Prime Minister of Britain, which went on for a good 6 to 8 weeks, and then finally Liz Truss prevailing by a fairly substantial majority in that face-off that she had with Rishi Sunak. Of course, in the last week or so, she's had to sack her finance minister, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Kwasi Kwarteng, after a very, very unpopular mini-budget, which went in for major tax cuts. That, of course, did not go down well with the markets. The markets tanked, so did the currency. And then subsequently, yesterday, Suella Braverman, who is the Home Secretary, also quit, apparently on the back of sending an email from a personal ID. Where does this place, Abhishek, where does this place the UK government's negotiations, the ongoing negotiations on the free trade agreement with India? They were supposed to have wrapped it up by Diwali, but looks like that deadline is certainly not going to be met.
I think, Zaka, the first priority that UK, the Conservative Party leaders will have to form a stable political setup that can remain in place for a few months until the next election are due next year. Liz Truss was the person who has actually initiated this free trade agreement when she was then the finance minister of UK, and then she became prime minister. So it was clearly one of her ambitious ideas to get this FTA deal done as soon as possible. And probably she was looking forward to Diwali as the deadline, and before it could have happened. And we know from the sources that the documents were being prepared on both sides. Indian finance ministry officials were also trying to prepare all the documents. UK side was also readying all its documents, but then this Suella Braverman statement came, which actually criticized the migration in the light of that if the FTA will happen, a lot of Indian immigrants could be coming to droves in London, and that was a very damning statement, and that destabilized the policy that Liz Truss was actually looking forward to. And not only FTA, but other policies, paralysis also started happening. She had to sack her Chancellor, and then Jeremy Hunt was appointed. But within few days of appointment of Jeremy Hunt, now it looks that the political stability that she may have foreseen was not well enough, and she had to resign. So currently, any UK Prime Minister would be looking forward to coming to the post and keeping the house in order for a few months.
I'm trying to also connect through to Sanjay Suri, our colleague in London. In the moment he's patched, we'll go to him right away. But I have Pranav Bhanot, who is a policy analyst who's joining us live from London. Pranav, this has been a bit of a circus, if you will, over the last 2-3 months or so. First with Boris Johnson's exit, and then the leadership race within the Conservative Party. But finally, Liz Truss lasting barely a month and a half. I mean, the old comparisons to Margaret Thatcher, and even yesterday in Parliament where she said she's a fighter, not a quitter, all of that not coming to pass.
You're 100% right. And over the summer, there were all these bold commitments from Liz Truss about what she would do when she becomes Prime Minister. She did it probably too quickly, too soon. and the economy in the United Kingdom has really been impacted as a result of it. I am sad to see her go, but I think it's the right decision that she's taken.
All right, Pranav, I'm sorry to interrupt. Let's listen in. This is coming live.
Given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected by the Conservative Party. I have therefore spoken to His Majesty the King to notify him that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party. This morning I met the chairman of the 1922 committee, Sir Graham Brady. We've agreed that there will be a leadership election to be completed within the next week. This will ensure that we remain on a path to deliver our fiscal plans and maintain our country's economic stability and national security. I will remain as Prime Minister until a successor has been chosen. Thank you.
Just from moments ago, Liz Truss, a very brief statement right outside 10 Downing. Speaking to reporters, she met with the chairman of the 1922 committee, and he, after discussions with him, she has decided to step down, citing the fact that her economic policies have come a cropper, if you will. If Pranav Bhanot is still there, Pranav, so essentially she's saying that what she was voted for as the leader of the Conservative Party, she was not able to implement that agenda. A large part of that agenda, of course, was tax cuts, particularly in the wealthiest bracket, if you will. That turned out to be deeply unpopular. And also the fact that at a time when the middle class is really getting beat because of the rising cost of living in the UK, as well as, of course, imported inflation because of the Ukraine war, there was a feeling that these tax cuts for the rich and wealthy was simply not going down well with the wider British public. It seemed tone deaf. It seemed counterproductive. And now we can see why, because it's not just the finance minister, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, who was asked to resign. This was the mini budget. This was his brainchild. And then subsequently now, after losing support within the Conservative Party, Liz Truss, after just a month and a half as Prime Minister, has stepped down. Sanjay Suri finally through on the broadcast. Sanjay, what a dramatic turn of events. What an anticlimax. I mean, at the time that she was sworn in as Prime Minister, comparisons were being made to Margaret Thatcher. Liz Truss barely lasting a month and a half.
Well, the comparisons to Margaret Thatcher were always a bit misplaced. Some of the support that she got was a sworn opposition to Rishi Sunak. But as quality went of the candidates, as quality of minds go, as quality of leadership and certainly potential leadership at that time, Rishi Sunak was miles ahead. But she made promises that were unrealistic, that were false, and she should have known them to be false. It's very unleader-like not to have known that, to have promised tax cuts across the board. It sounds very good in the short term that everyone thinks that, well, we're going to pay less tax, there's going to be more money. There was no answer where this money is going to come from. That's where Rishi Sunak had challenged her. She had no answer except to ridicule and rubbish Rishi Sunak's views. And the minute those views of her hit contact with the reality, of course, these were not such that could be implemented at all. One after the other disaster followed in terms of policy, which he U-turned on one after another. And then, of course, other people were seeing this happening. Everybody across the party. Suella Braverman provided the trigger. And if you like, it is one Indian who brought down one Prime Minister, and then another one of Indian origin brought down the following Prime Minister. And of course, we can expect Suella Braverman and Rishi Sunak to be very much in the race now.
So what happens now? In that statement that she made outside 10 Downing, she said there's going to be a leadership election in the next week. Will that be like what we saw in the race for the Conservative Party leadership that we saw after Boris Johnson stepped down? It was almost like a public fight. Whoever wanted to throw their hat in the ring did so. Or is this election going to be more behind the scenes, wheeling and dealing, and whoever has support of the majority of the MPs, that person goes on to become the next Prime Minister?
Well, this is what we're going to hear very soon now from Sir Graham Brady. He has the 1922 committee, as it's called, and that handles the parliamentary affairs of the Conservative Party. Almost certainly, we are not going to have another 6 weeks of campaigning among Tory members, following weeks of voting among the parliamentary members. That whole process was far too luxurious by today's timetable. No one has the time, no one has the will for a repeat of any of that. But clearly, Sir Graham Reddy will be setting out some method. There has to be some form of representation. It cannot be simply the case that Liz Truss names a successor and that person takes over, unless as a very brief filler. So we're going to hear exactly what this will look like. It does appear that if this were to go down to the Conservative Party members in some sort of a quick vote, it's very likely Boris Johnson will be in. But if it is a matter among Conservative MPs, very likely Sunak will be in.
So break that down for us. If it is members of parliament, you are suggesting that Sunak does stand a good chance. But if they go back to the almost, 200,000 odd members of the Conservative Party, then again, we might see another, for want of a better phrase, another white candidate as the next Prime Minister.
Yes, we have seen indications of that already. When the first stage of voting was held in the last round following the exit of Boris Johnson, we had a majority of, or not quite the majority, but the largest number of MPs who voted for Rishi Sunak. And the reason we have to be very careful in understanding that this was not a majority, that Rishi did not get majority support in Parliament. He just got the highest number among the candidates who were contesting. Now, if that is an indication, certainly he stands a very good chance. And not just that, it is his credentials that will now speak. Liz Truss hit the rocks over economic policy. And that is where Rishi Sunak is strong. He's seen as a rock when it comes to financial policies. And given the turbulence over policy and over decisions, Rishi Sunak is likely to be trusted. And that will add to the popularity he won in the last round. But of course, if it came down to the Conservative parties, the 170, 180,000 or so, then we saw that at hustings after hustings, Boris Johnson was the one who was loudly cheered. He is very much the hero among them. And surely, if the vote was up to them, Boris Johnson would be as good as through.
Tell me a little bit about this mini budget. It was, of course, Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng's brainchild. Why did it go down so badly with both the markets as well as the British public at a time when people are really braving this cost of living crisis?
Well, the budget was unrealistic. It was unsustainable. What happened is that Liz Truss had made promises that were undeliverable. When it came to the mini budget, she sought to give implementation to undeliverable policies. There was simply no way that a government already deep in debt and which got deeper into debt over borrowings over the furlough scheme would now say fund another 45 billion pounds straight in budget plus another 60 billion for energy subsidies and just dole out money to people. This is not sustainable. You can't borrow money from nowhere where you don't have it. Okay. And the market could see that. So she lost credibility. The budget lost credibility, she lost credibility, and that is why the markets reacted.
I'm also curious and interested to know this whole possibility, and right now it's in the realm of speculation, but this possibility that if it goes to the wider Conservative Party members, then Boris Johnson stands a very good chance. What then happens to the entire history around him? I mean, the Partygate scandal and all the other scandals that eventually brought him down.
It gets taken over by democracy. That it is then the rules of the Conservative Party of the 1922 committee that it may set if it then puts the vote, and rather than going through extensive campaigning, if it were to go for a one-shot vote among Conservative Party members, and if then Boris Johnson were to contest, then he's as good as won. There is very little doubt about that. The very mention of Boris Johnson through those hustings, and that was a contest between...
All right, Sanjay, if you're still there, just a quick word. I think the Labour leader, Keir Starmer, has said that there should be general elections now. The British people deserve a chance and a choice to shape the future of their country. Is that a possibility at all? Not least because the Conservatives know if they go back to the people of Britain right now, they're not particularly well placed. All right, Sanjay's not there. Let's try and see if we can connect to other expert voices as well. So this is the big story breaking right now, this hour here on CNN News 18. Liz Truss has gone down in history, or infamy if you will, as the shortest serving Prime Minister of Britain, merely a month and a half, exactly 45 days after she was sworn into office, after she won the Conservative Party leadership race, beating Rishi Sunak. She has now decided to step down. She's going to continue for another week as caretaker Prime Minister, and in that week, a vote is expected to happen to decide who is going to be the next Conservative Party leader and therefore the Prime Minister of Britain. Now, if it goes back to the Conservative Party members, almost 200,000 of them, then Boris Johnson stands a chance of coming back, despite all the Partygate scandal and all the other scandals that eventually took him down. But if it was just the members of Parliament, the Conservative MPs who were to vote to decide who's going to be the next Prime Minister, then, as Sanjay Suri said, Rishi Sunak, the former Chancellor of the Exchequer, stands a very good chance of becoming the next Prime Minister of Britain. It's going to be a very, very closely watched contest. Remember, Liz Truss had almost put the entire country and certainly the financial markets in turmoil after that mini budget that was presented earlier this month. That, of course, was the trigger. That, of course, was the final tipping point, if you will, that brought her government down. The finance minister had to resign, and just yesterday, the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, in what was seen as the last nail in the coffin, also decided to quit. So that's the breaking story right here on CNN News 18. Liz Truss, the Prime Minister of Britain, has stepped down.
We delivered on energy bills and on cutting national insurance. And we set out a vision for a low-tax, high-growth economy that would take advantage of the freedoms of Brexit. I recognise, though, given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected by the Conservative Party. I have therefore spoken to His Majesty the King to notify him that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party. I will remain as Prime Minister until a successor has been chosen. Thank you.
Do you sense that even with the unprecedented majority that the BJP government has, UCC is just too hot a potato for it? It wants to possibly delay it as much as possible.
फारूक अब्दुल्ला साहब का नाम तो नहीं लिया, पर उन्होंने कहा कुछ लोग हैं जो कह रहे हैं कि जब तक इनको जस्टिस नहीं मिलेगा ये होता है। किसकी जस्टिस की बात कर रहे हैं? एसपी साहब also turning around and showing him the mirror.
With Mr. Kharge's victory, the fact remains that Mr. Kharge's biggest stumbling block will be to at least dent the image that he's a candidate of the Gandhis, that he's not going to do anything that the Gandhis don't want him to do.
As per the law, those convicted of dacoity, robbery, murder with rape are not to be released on furlough. Gurmeet Ram Rahim is convicted of 2 murders and 2 rape. How is he out for 40 days?
Hello and a very warm welcome. This is a very special broadcast and you are watching it with me, Rihadul Siddiqui. Now the population debate is back and so is the discourse on population policy and infiltration in border areas. After the RSS chief, Mohan Bhagwat, now RSS General Secretary, Dattatreya Hosabale, has stepped into the population round. What are his views? Now he says that religious conversion and undocumented migrants, in fact, from neighbouring countries were among the reasons causing population imbalance in India. Hosabale also made these comments on the last day of RSS National Executive meeting in Prayagraj and also spoke about concerns being expressed regarding religious conversion in the country. Now, throwing in his 2 bits on anti-conversion, he said that RSS believes that people who converted from Hinduism to other religions should not get the benefits of reservation. Hosabale also talks about existing policies on population control and goes on to say that they could reduce the number of young persons in the country. Remember, these statements at a time when the BJP-led Uttar Pradesh government is preparing to bring a new law on population control. Does it make BJP RSS appear like a house divided? But whether it is Mohan Bhagwat's Vijay Dashmi address or Hosabale's recent one, is it safe to say that the RSS has pretty much stuck to their religion-based population imbalance statement, even talking about how this can lead to changes in geographical boundaries? Take a look.
हमारे देश में कन्वर्शन होने से, मतांतरण होने से कई जगह पर संख्या हिंदुओं की कम होती, उसके परिणाम भी भुगतना पड़ता है।
जनसंख्या का असंतुलन हुआ तो 50 साल पहले उसके गंभीर परिणामों को हमने भुगता, और केवल हमारा ऐसा हुआ ऐसा नहीं, आज की तारीख में यह असंतुलन जन्मदर एक भाग है उसका, लेकिन जोर जबरदस्ती या छल कपट से, लालच से मतांतरण, ये सबसे बड़ा फैक्टर है।
Now, India is the world's 7th largest country by area with more than 1.3 billion residents. And if we divide this vast populace on the basis of their religious identities, Hindus account for about 80% of the population. Muslims are at 13%, while other major religious groups like Christians are at 2.3%, Sikhs at 1.9%, Buddhists at 0.8% and Jains at 0.4%. So how does one look at this imbalance pitch? Shouldn't the bigger problem be that of population explosion than ascertaining which religious group makes for the majority share of the population, or by another logic, one whose growth rate needs to be capped or stunted? Is it really the bigger concern of fear-mongering about population imbalance that might spark hate crimes? Put that aside for once. When we say population explosion, what are we really looking at? Here's decoding for you India's population explosion. Let's now take a look at exactly what we're talking about over here. We have got this map in place for you, which talks about how there has been a constant growth rate in population in various states in the country. And this is something that we are putting out when it comes to this population explosion right from the year 2011 to 2019. So this is something that is the actual concern, which we would like to actually focus on today. Now, various states across the country have looked at certain population control initiatives. Let's now take a look at what exactly are these population control initiatives that we're talking about. If we talk about the state of Assam, in 2019, there was a two-child policy that was rolled out. It was effective from the year 2021, and this, in fact, disqualifies people with 2 kids for government jobs, and persons also with 2 kids cannot contest local election. And if we take a look at Andhra Pradesh and Telangana in the year 1994, people with 2 kids cannot contest election. Let's shift focus to Maharashtra in the year 2005. People with 2 kids cannot contest panchayat or municipal polls. That is what the idea was behind the Maharashtra population bill. In fact, people with 2 kids cannot hold government jobs as well, and no PDS benefits for women with 2 kids. Taking a look at Rajasthan now. In fact, Rajasthan is the one state that disqualifies people with 2 kids for government jobs. People with 2 kids cannot contest local election. And looking at Gujarat, in the year 2005, this is what happened in the state in Gujarat. People with 2 kids cannot contest panchayat or municipal elections. And if we take a look at Madhya Pradesh, in the year 2001, there was a 2-child norm for government jobs and judicial services. Taking a look at Odisha, persons with 2 children cannot contest local election. Also at Bihar now, where people with 2 kids cannot contest, more than 2 kids in fact, cannot contest local election. And if you look at Uttarakhand, people with more than 2 kids cannot contest local election. Now, let's take a look at the big debate over population control bill. Why a population law is needed what is the pros, what are the cons that have been put forth when it comes to the comparison. Now, 1.69 billion population that is projected for the country by the year 2050. This, in fact, will go on to beat China. That is the major argument. Also, the cons against it is, of course, this will in fact lead to a dip in the total fertility rate in the last 10 years. That is from 2.2, it becomes 2.2 from 2.7. So that is something that has been spoken about. Also, if we look at why this law is needed, it's successfully implemented by Vietnam and China, and this is can be taken as an example why we do not need the law. 24 states and union territories have achieved replacement level of fertility rate of 2.1. That's another argument. Also, less stress on resources. It will in fact reduce poverty faster. That's why this law is needed, why it isn't. Need for better access to reproductive education first. That's another argument that's been put forth. Also, what is going for the law? It cuts pressure on dwindling natural resources. Important point over there. Also, why it's not needed. The argument is that there's a need to focus more on manpower and manufacturing rather than a law on population. Also, smaller families means better nutrition, and it means better education, and that's why this law should be enacted. Why it shouldn't be? It says that it creates long-term aging population concerns, which is what the argument of the RSS also is, that we are talking about, and that's something that we need to actually put together over here. Let's now take a look at the big question that we are presenting for our viewers and for the guests who are joining us on this broadcast. Is population imbalance a fact or just fear-mongering? Let me put this across to my guests who are joining me on the broadcast. Subhash Jha, who's a lawyer, joins me. Rahul Ishwar, author activist, is joining me on the broadcast. Also, Atikur Rahman, who's an Islamic scholar, is joining us. Also, Manu Gaur, who's the president of TAXEB and also a population expert, joins me. Manu Gaur, I will take this across to you first. Do you think it's a fair argument that the entire problem of population explosion is talked about from a lens of the religious ethnicity or the religious identities of people? Mr. Gaur?
Garima ji, am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead, sir.
जो भी लोग इसे धर्म के चश्मे से देखते हैं, रिलीजन के चश्मे से देखते हैं, वो बिल्कुल गलत है। अगर हम देखें हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का प्रीएम्बल क्या कहता है? व्हाट इज इंडिया? इंडिया इज ए सोवरेन सोशलिस्ट सेकुलर डेमोक्रेटिक रिपब्लिक, और यहाँ पर हर जाति, हर धर्म, हर समुदाय, हर मजहब के लोग रहते हैं। फिर हमेशा पॉपुलेशन के ऊपर सिर्फ दो धर्मों की ही बात क्यों आती है? If we look into the matter, Jain community has the lowest fertility rate in our country, and it is the richest community. Among the most Bihar, if you look Bihar is the state with the highest fertility rate, and गरीब प्रदेशों में बिहार का नाम आता है। तो ये डायरेक्टली लिंक्ड है हमारी पॉपुलेशन, हमारी प्रॉब्लम से। ये डायरेक्टली लिंक है हमारे सप्लाई और डिमांड के रेशो से, हमारे रिसोर्सेज के सप्लाई और डिमांड के रेशो से। if we want to give employment to each and every person, if we want to give fresh air, pure water, organic and healthy food to all our citizens of India, then we have to control our population. India was the first country in the world who very firstly decided to act on the population issues, and it is presently it is the most highly populated country of the world.
Okay, all right. I know, Rahul, you want to come in really badly over here. There are certain points that you intend to make. However, I just want to understand that in that same breath, you know, RSS ideologue, whether we talk about Mohan Bhagwat or Mr. Hosabale over here, both of them went together to talk about anti-conversion and infiltration along the border. and how this is leading up to a population imbalance when it comes to the religious identities of people. How is that justified?
Ma'am, 2 points. Population studies or demographics are a well-documented scientific data-driven field. Every other data is freely available. We have National Family Health Survey, we have government statistics, we have vital statistics department of various states. So the data is definitely there. 2 things. One, when we were children, when we were in school, we were taught that population was a liability. Right now we realize population is an asset. That's the reason why we call it demographic dividend. Our PM Modi ji, RSS Sarsanchalak Mohan Bhagavat has many times spoken about this demographic dividend aspect. But when we say demographic dividend, there should be population stability across various communities. There is a magic number here. That magic number is called 2.1. That 2.1 is a scientific rate which is called the replacement level fertility rate. That replacement level fertility rate should be for every community irrespective of the faith. And there are some communities whose fertility rate fall below 2.1. For example, Jains, as the person who earlier said, Hindu community, as the person earlier said. There are some communities who grow over the fertility rate. So what we need is optimum population rate, or what is generally called as 2 to 2.5 or 2.1 to 2.3. This is the optimum fertility rate. We had a very skewed policy regarding population in the past 50 years. Just 2 more lines. China is right now changing their population policy, and China has reversed it only some months ago. We know that Japan is going to collapse because Japan's fertility rate is only 1.33, and people like Elon Musk has been telling it very loudly that Japan is going to implode and collapse. So we have 2 issues here. One is of population explosion, one is of population implosion. Beyond faith, we have to look at it and let us realize that population has to be stabilized. That's the reason why we need a population stabilization policy and a proper demographic dividend harnessing our strength. 2.1 should be the magic number.
So why then the population bills that have been brought in by various states, and Uttar Pradesh is also all said to be bringing in one, Rahul?
Yes, every state should have it hovering around a healthy fertility rate, because this is a matter of science, not of politics or faith. 2.1 is a sacrosanct number which is accepted by demographers world over. That 2.1 is a healthy fertility rate. Every community should have that 2.1, and we should bring a bill that will tie every community to the magic number of 2.1 or 2.1 to 2.3 or 2.4. But there are many communities who are falling below it. That is population implosion. If any community is going above 3 or 4, it is population explosion. So we need to keep around population, the optimum population, and there should be awareness, policy implementation, political will, social coordination without creating enmity or animosity to every community. So a population paradigm is needed. Population policy is needed. Let us not shy away and let us not brush issues under the carpet. Let us be honest, intellectually honest, and address this very sensitive issue.
All right. Atikur Rahman, I'll take this across to you. According to the 5th round of the National Family Health Survey, and I'm quoting from a data over here, this is from 2019 to 2021, India's total fertility rate has declined from 2.2 in 2015-16 to 2 in 2019-21. Isn't it as a result of significant progress in population control measures, or this argument of population implosion that Rahul is talking about stands here?
Well, both Mr. Rahul and Mr. Manu are very much exposing the RSS and the BJP, whatever they say about the population. We need not communalize the issue. That's a core point here. If we need to communalize, I would say that the RSS today is changing the goalpost. Since years together, what they were pinpointing that the Muslim population will be overtaking the Hindu population, and that was the cause for worry. Now what they are saying is that the migration of the population and the religious conversion. Now both these ideas or both these realities form in the realm of the government. Why the government, the mighty Modi government, since the past 8 years, they were unable to control either the migration or the religious conversion. And this religion conversion phantom created by the RSS, over the 100 years was never proved. They killed Gramscians on the same lines of religion conversion, and the claims were very much faulty. Never they were to prove that Gramscians was into conversion. No, this creating a communal, bigotry will kill this idea of what Rahul is exactly saying, that why not have a substantial population policy? None of the states, none of the governments in the past have proved that on the floor of the legislature they are having a population policy. So rather than criminalizing, we need to put our heads together, bring in a policy which we have so now failed.
All right.
Please,
Bringing in
the
Mr. Subhash
RSS
Jha.
can't
Mr.
expose
Jha, Mr.
because
Jha,
they are
why
changing
bring
the
in
goalpost.
conversion over here? What does conversion have to do with population explosion?
Conversion does have to do something a lot with the population explosion. Population explosion, see, in a democracy, it is the demography which decides the fate of which party will be ruling, either in the state or in the center. So therefore, it plays a very important role. And let us not talk, when we talk of, I don't think Rahul Ishwar or the speaker who spoke before him spoke anything to do with religion. This is a national issue. This is a matter of serious concern.
Which is what I'm asking you. What does conversion have to do with population explosion, sir?
So if Hindus are converted, if Hindus are converted into a different religion, say for example Muslim, Islam, or Christianity, the Hindu population is bound to deplete. And look,
you're still talking about the religious identities of people. You're not talking about population explosion in general, sir, which is what I want again go ahead and ask you. What does conversion mean when it comes to talking about population explosion?
See, it adds to the already populous state, populous country like India. Say, for example, now the Hindu population today is about 141 crores. What is the Muslim population? The Muslim population is about 14%. Now, therefore, if people are converted for various reasons, and therefore there is why there is so much of clamor.
But sir, are they not part of the same 1.3 billion people? Is what it's basic maths, don't you think?
No. See, I tell you, the basic maths is this: that we cannot afford, India cannot afford that the Hindu population, while Hindu population will deplete and other religions will increase exponential. We cannot afford to this. And look at what has happened. After 1947, 9 states in the country, about 9 of them out of 29 have become Hindu minority state, and therefore this is a matter of serious concern. Not only the religion changes, the nationality or your allegiance or your faith to the nation also changes with the change in religion, and which is a matter of serious concern.
Okay.
And the government in power has to come down very heavily. Why only UP? All over the country, there has to be population control. We see the size of India doesn't increase over a period of time. In 75 years, Indian territory has not increased. It has shrunk rather. 1/3 of the area, our territory has gone to Pakistan. So our population will keep on increasing. Where are the resources?
Okay, Rahul, let me bring you in over here. What has been said by both the RSS ideologues? Don't you think it is also, this is what the argument is, a coded statement for targeting the rise of what they are claiming to be Muslim population, and that seems to be the fear that has been put forth in the statement?
It is a matter of serious concern.
One, let me quote Mahatma Gandhi himself, our father of the nation. Mahatma Gandhi nearly 80 years back said, if I had the power to legislate, I would bring an anti-forced conversion law. He was the greatest secular icon we have. He's the greatest pluralist icon the world has. But he said anti-forced conversion law should be there because there should be harmony. Second, we know our experience in Middle East where people were converting en masse, and it has caused social disturbances. It has caused communal disturbances. And it was Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, our first education minister, who spoke for the Hindu community, expressing inhibition about the mass conversions, then to a cardinal in Bombay. His name was Cardinal Gracious in the then Bombay or now Bombay. So we have to maintain a sense of balance. I totally agree with everyone who says let us not make our minorities insecure. We should take them into confidence. And along with the same point of time, we need to address and have like Atikur sir said, we need to have a comprehensive population policy with every community involved. And please remember, Jains are more at stake. Jains are a very rich, affluent community, but their population dip is going to be a population implosion for that community. We have the oldest Jain community in the world. We are proud to have Mahavira and Jains among us. We should not lose them. They should not be a footnote in history. So that's the reason why a comprehensive population policy which upholds 2.1 for every community and encourages every community to hover around 2.1 should be our national policy. And I believe every Indian will agree that it should not be done without any communal bias, any communal.
All right. Atikur Rahman, why is there resistance when, let's say, we talk about the state of Uttar Pradesh over here, when the government in the state tries to bring in a population control bill, then also the minorities cry foul on when there is a bill on the so-called love jihad angle and, bill for illegal anti-conversion, that ordinance which was actually put into in the year 2020, then also the minorities go in and cry foul. Why do they want to have it both ways? That also is one argument. Please respond.
See, the core argument of the RSS is religiosity. We are defending since 100 years that there is no data available with the RSS that the Muslim community is determinedly trying to cross over the Hindu community.
Okay.
So their argument falls flat as far as the religious conversion for overtaking the Hindu population, or the Muslims are trying deliberately to overpopulate them. So this falls to the, now they are changing the goalpost. Mr. Jha is, trying to cover it up in some way. Here the problem is, if the religious conversions are a factor, then is the Muslim community as a whole responsible for it? Here the youth are moving towards scientific temperament. The youth are getting, higher education. The youth are getting some kind of a socialization amongst the communities and the universities and the colleges. Now, by their own choice, where is the data available to say that the conversions are forcefully done? If it is forcefully done, the government is well within its powers to stop it.
Okay.
So all arguments of the RSS pinpointing communalization of this population explosion falls flat on the ground.
Okay. All right. Manu Gaur, let's go to this argument of an aging population. And, the similes were with China, where the average age has come up to 39. Do you think that argument holds?
No, Garima. First of all, we have to read the one-child policy of China. That was the targeted population policies. They want to control the new 40 million births, new births in 35 years.
Yeah.
They have achieved their target in 38 years. Then to maintain the replacement level, the 2.1 fertility rate, they are allowing, now they are allowing more kids. So this is the fact about the population policy, one-child population policy of the China. One thing I want to say is in 1992, the government of India has brought a 79th Constitution Amendment Bill in Rajya Sabha to restrict the persons who have more than 2 kids to vote the elections of MP and MLA. But all these type of political games, सारे नेताओं ने मिलके, सारी political parties ने मिलके उसका विरोध किया. जो अभी आप starting में what you were showing that different states have their separate rules of two-child norm in local body elections. Government of India also decided to do the same with the MP and MLA elections.
Okay, Mr. Jha, let me bring you in here. Since we were sticking with that earlier argument, there are 3 states. Let me talk about these 3 states. Let me talk about West Bengal, or for that matter, in Uttar Pradesh, also Western UP, and then Kashmir, where there is a majority of the Muslim population. Do you think that problem of infiltration or having porous borders that has been much spoken about is in context specifically on these states, and that's why it has been spoken about a lot, because of that kind of resistance?
See, I was the author of a petition which was filed in the Supreme Court, and what was said, and this was in the aftermath of the election which was held recently in West Bengal, and this was precisely what was said. See, in a democracy, it is the demography which plays the vital role. So, what do you do to manipulate demography? You increase Muslim population so that they vote to a particular party. So you bring Rohingyas, you bring people from Bangladesh, you bring people from Pakistan, and then what is happening, and which is a very dangerous trend. Meanwhile, the investigating agency perhaps will have to rise to the occasion, and maybe the government of India do something. What is happening, in my assessment, this is my study, that population, a certain section of people are made to float from one constituency to another. The moment the election in that constituency gets over, they are made to go from one place to another. And therefore, in the recently held
Mr.
election,
Shah, I think you will also agree that this is a political point that even the RSS is going ahead and making. So I don't quite understand this point that you going ahead and making when it comes to the problem of infiltration, and what does one really mean when you say bringing these people from across the borders. Anyways, that's the problem of discourse over here. However, I think we all will agree to this one point, that if ample infrastructure is put in good health and good education, I think we can get over this problem of population explosion. That essentially is what we are talking about over here, and that essentially that needs to be looked at. And that's the note that I'd like to leave it at. I'd like to thank all my guests for joining me on the broadcast. Thank you so much for being a part of this discussion.
Do you sense that even with the unprecedented majority that the BJP government has, UCC is just too hot a potato for it? It wants to possibly delay it as much as possible.
फारूक अब्दुल्ला साहब का नाम तो नहीं लिया, पर उन्होंने कहा कुछ लोग हैं जो कह रहे हैं कि जब तक इनको जस्टिस नहीं मिलेगा ये होता है। किसकी जस्टिस की बात कर रहे हैं? एसजी साहब also turning around and showing him the mirror.
With Mr. Kharge's victory, the fact remains that Mr. Kharge's biggest stumbling block will be to at least dent the image that he's a candidate of the Gandhis, that he's not going to do anything that the Gandhis don't want him to do.
As per the law, those convicted of dacoity, robbery, murder with rape are not to be released on furlough. Gurmeet Ram Rahim is convicted of 2 murders and 2 rape. How is he out for 40 days?
Good evening, hello and welcome to Plain Speak. I'm Anusha Soni. It seems that gasping for breath is a yearly ritual for over 2 crore people living in the Delhi NCR region, including me. Here in Delhi, we are consigned to the fate that each year we would choke, cough and be exposed to various life-threatening diseases. Let me not even start about what's happening to the children who are growing up in the Delhi NCR region. When issues like air pollution confront a developing country like India, one would expect the political class to respond with medium to long-term solutions, policy solutions. Look at globally, look at cities like Beijing, London, that have successfully reduced the pollution levels in their respective cities, thanks to the political will and planning, the policy planning that the cities have. Here in India, it's the courts that have been framing the policy for the cities, whether it's the Supreme Court of India or the National Green Tribunal, and the political class has only indulged in a blame game. The case of Aam Aadmi Party that tried horse over stubble burning in Punjab for the last 4 years, blamed the state for air pollution, and now when AAP is in power both in Delhi and Punjab, they seem to be gasping for answers. But the question really is that more than the larger political class, it's a question about how the entire political class, including the Congress, BJP and the Aam Aadmi Party, how are they responding? Is our political class really capable of giving us solutions, or we are assigned to the fate of death by each breath? That has been the story here in the National Capital Region, in multiple cities of the northern India for every year. Our top focus this summer. as we begin today's discussion, you would hear the political class and the experts saying a lot of things about what can and cannot be done. But here are some big questions that we as citizens must focus upon. First, do the centre and the Delhi government have an action plan in place to tackle the crisis of air pollution? And we're not talking about knee-jerk reactions. We're talking about a long-term policy measure that can be adopted. Can the Aam Aadmi Party deflect the blame for stubble burning menace now because they have indulged in this political whataboutery? But what about now? They did not become a part of this debate officially when they were invited. People living in Delhi and NCR have been left to suffer in pollution. They're trapped in the zone. What would they do? Is the public health not a priority for the elected governments of the day, whether it's about Delhi, Haryana or Punjab? More importantly, why is there no punitive action against farmers for burning stubble? Is the punitive action really the right way? Or the monoculture around farming that we have seen in the last 1 decade? That's the core issue. Action against farmers means a dent in the vote bank.